welcome back to my kitchen. Welcome back to my channel, Low Carb Lish, the channel where we find low carb delicious foods, make easy simple recipes, and today we're getting back to the basics for those of you that have just been diagnosed. So we're going to make a really simple, easy meal. And this is Madison Isabella. She's 15. She will be 16 in September. She likes to supervise once in a while. So anyway, let me get my apron and we'll get started. Are you going to supervise Mommy cooking today? Are you? I feel that if you're a really good supervisor, you're probably going to get a meatball out of the deal. I do. I feel like you're going to get a meatball out of the deal. You going to work for that program? I got to untie my apron here. I got to untie my apron so I can get it on. Yes. Yes. I know. It's going to be delicious. You're going to love it. We're all going to love it. You on board with that program? All right. Let's get started here. So today we are just going to make a basic low carb meal that is meatballs with keto gravy, and we're going to have broccoli that we're just frozen. Actually, I think we're making spinach. Hold on. And we're going to have spinach that is frozen, but we're going to cook it in a skillet with some butter and some farmer's cheese. And we're going to have all of that over rice, and it's going to be fabulous. And it's cauliflower rice, not regular rice. So the first thing we're going to do is I've got a pound of ground beef here. And we have Publix here in Georgia where I live. And so they have a beef called market beef. And it's really good. It's a mixture of steak and regular ground beef and some of the other trimmings off the more high-end meats. It's very flavorful. But if you don't have that in your area, ground chuck, ground round, ground sirloin, whatever you have that you prefer, one good thing when you're eating low carb is you can have the higher fat meats and they add a lot more flavor to your meal. So if you want to go with higher fat content ground beef, go for it because it's delicious. So I need to get a spoon here. I'm sorry, I'm not more prepared today. Okay, so we've got the ground beef here, and I'm just going to loosen that up in the bowl a little bit. Okay, so once you've got that broken up a little bit, we're going to put some onion in here. Now, I'm going to show you the small piece of onion that I chopped up to go in here, just to let you see how far a little bit of onion will go, because this, like I said, is a pound of ground beef. So I cut a relatively small piece of onion up to put in here. Like to show you. I'm not a professional here. I'm home cooks. Cooking from home, making dinner for our families. And that one little piece of onion goes a long way. Okay. This is an ounce of pork rinds, and I like the Mutt and Jeff brand of pork rinds. They carry them at a little store around the corner from my house. But whatever brand you like, just make sure that it's the plain and not the barbecue and some of the other flavors that they add sugar to. So I'm going to do salt and pepper, and the salt and pepper is to taste. And if you don't like pepper, leave it out. If you don't want to eat salt, you can leave that out too. But I will tell you that when we're eating low carb and we're not having a lot of sugars and carbs and stuff, it's important to keep your electrolytes up. So salt is fine. And I'm also going to add a little garlic, and I'm not measuring this, but it's probably about half a teaspoon of garlic in here. And I've got the garlic powder because I'm out of garlic, regular garlic, but the garlic powder works. And let's face it, when we're cooking and we're, you know, working a job and trying to take care of our family and everything, sometimes we just need to go the faster route. So just to let you know that will totally work. And I'm going to add an egg to this as well. I want to get these seasonings and the onion mixed in a little bit more. Okay, let me grab an egg here. I'm just going to add one egg. And that's it. It is super simple to make. And these meatballs hold together, they taste wonderful, and you're gonna like them a lot. Okay, get this mixed up really well. So, I've got a little pan over here. Move this stuff out of the way. And what I like to do with these is use my scoop. And the reason I like to do that is because it gives me more of a uniform size. And you just scoop it like golf ball size into your hand and roll them and form them. And I may need a bigger pan than I've got, but we're going to roll with this right now. And you just continue to do this until you got them all in the pan. And I know y'all don't want to sit here and watch me make meatballs, so I'm going to make these and I'll be right back. Okay, so we got 16 meatballs out of that, which is about right because they're about an ounce a piece and it's a pound of hamburger. And we're going to put it in the oven. I've got my oven preheated at 350 already. So we're going to put them in the oven. They need to cook about 35-40 minutes depending on your oven. And then we'll pull them out and I'll have gravy and everything to put on them. And then we'll be eating before you know it. And I like to set my timer so I don't forget things because I forget things. Sometimes. Alright, so we've got this timer set for 35 minutes. And we're going to let those cook, and in the meantime we're going to make the cauliflower rice and the spinach with the farmer's cheese and the gravy. Okay guys, so this is just a head of cauliflower that I've cut the core out of and washed, and now I'm going to use my food processor to turn it into cauliflower rice. Now you can buy the bags of cauliflower rice in the frozen food section of your grocery store. I just find that they're a little too soft for me. They're not exactly mushy, but they're softer than I would like it to be. And when you're trying to get rice consistency, if you will use a fresh head of cauliflower, you will get a much better result because you have control over the cooking. And another thing is, I'm going to do this whole head of cauliflower and zhuzh it up and turn it into rice, because it'll keep in the refrigerator for a week or longer, and I can use it in different kinds of recipes without having to cook it all at one time. So let's get started with that. And the food processor is going to make easy work of this, so I'm just going to cut it up into smaller pieces here, but then I'm going to let the food processor turn it into rice. And it's super simple, and it takes just a couple of minutes to get going here. And if you're cooking for an entire family, then, you know, you can do the whole head of cauliflower in just a few minutes and be ready to cook for your family. Quick as a lick. Alright. So I'm going to do this half one to show you, and then we'll move on. Now my food processor has a pulse and an on. If yours doesn't, just turn it on and off, but I like to pulse it, get it started before I turn it on. And I find that when I do this, it does a better job of zhuzhing it into rice. And that's it. What you're looking for is a very rice-like consistency, and it's going to work perfectly. Okay, so I ended up just zhuzhing up half of the cauliflower, and you can see how much half of a head made, filled up this whole serving bowl. So I'm going to cook just enough for a meal or two and put the rest of it in the refrigerator. And we'll get to that in just a minute. What I'm going to make to go over the meatballs that you're going to serve over the rice is a beef gravy. And yes, you can have beef gravy if you're trying to reverse type 2 diabetes. You just can't make it with flour and stuff. So what we're going to do is we're going to start out and we're going to do a tablespoon of butter. I need to grab the utensil here real quick. So we're going to put a tablespoon of butter in. And I like to use my little iron skillet just because I'm cooking smaller amounts, but you can absolutely make this in a bigger container, and you can double, triple this recipe if you're making for a family. So one of the secrets to making gravies and stuff that are low carb, you can actually use two things. One of them is this glucomannan, and it's actually my favorite thing to use. This is powdered cognac root, and if you don't know what that is, don't feel bad, because I didn't either until I started eating low carb. But they have these pasta substitute noodles on the market called Miracle Noodles. And I tried them and I was not super impressed with them just because they have a very rubbery texture even after you've cooked them. Some people like it. I'm just not one of those people. So I was surprised when I found this, and it's powder from the cognac root that does not have that property, I guess is the word I'm looking for. So I'm going to do a tablespoon of butter in here and 1 cup of beef broth. And I like College Inn beef broth. They've got the least amount of additives and things to their broth than most of the ones on the market right now. And so I use that a lot. So I'm going to do that, and then we're going to do a tablespoon of cream. And I need to grab the tablespoon. I'll be right back. And we're going to add a tablespoon of cream in here, and I'm putting the cream in here to add color as well as a little richness to it. But you only need a tablespoon to make this work. So after I've done that, I'm going to put salt and pepper in here, and you can add different things like I've used poultry seasoning in it when I use it for chicken and stuff, because I can make this with the chicken broth as well as the beef broth. And so I'll get every little bit of cream in there. And we're going to stir this up and mix everything up real quick. And you see what a beautiful, like, country brown gravy that's going to make. And if you've got aminos, coconut aminos, or liquid smoke, that was messy, then you can also add that if you want to make the gravy a little bit darker. But, I mean, that's a good country gravy, y'all. So, we're going to let this heat up just a little bit. And I've got it heating a little bit higher than medium, but not quite to medium high. And we're going to let this heat up, and then we're going to add a dash. And I found these cute little measuring spoons. It's a smidgen, a dash, and a pinch. And the dash is the measurement we're going to be using, and it's actually 1/8 of a teaspoon. So if you've got a 1/4 teaspoon measure, just use half of that, and you'll have the same amount in yours that's going in this one. And again, this is a smaller amount that I'm making because I'm only cooking for me, and this will make gravy for 2 or 3 meals for me. If you've got a family of 3 or more, cook this and you'll have 3 servings. If not, then you can double or triple the recipe if you've got a lot of people in your house that you're feeding. So, alright, so we're going to have to wait just a minute until that heats up. So while we're waiting on that to heat up, I'm also going to make spinach with farmer's cheese. And I'm just using part of a bag. I like to get Publix chopped spinach in the bag. And they call it a steaming bag. I never steam it in the bag because I like to cook it and make it taste more like homemade, but you could steam it in the bag if you wanted to. So I like to use avocado oil as well. Avocado oil is really good for us, and it's got a very high burn point, and you don't need a ton of it. So, and it's not really that much more expensive than some of the olive oils that are on the market. So I've just put a little bit of avocado oil in there. I'm just going to add my spinach. And if you like spinach, you can absolutely make this one serving. That's what I'm going to do because I like a lot of spinach and it's low carb and low calorie and it's delicious. And this is super simple because we're all about simple and stuff here. Hang on. Okay, so also salt and pepper your spinach. And you're just going to cover it up because really we don't want to overcook it. That's my oven telling me that it's... Oh, that's my timer telling me the meatballs are ready. They look lovely. So we're going to pull them out and just let them rest while we're cooking this other stuff. Turn the oven off here so I don't forget. Alright, back to the spinach. So salt and pepper is all I put in there. Although sometimes, and I may do that today, sometimes I like to put dill in here as well. And if you don't like dill, just leave it out. It's just one of those things I enjoy the taste of it. And it mixes well with farmer's cheese too. So I put a good little bit of dill in mine because I really like it. And it's a nice low carb spice as well. And then all we're going to do is stir it up just a little bit. And then we're going to cover it and let it cook. And I'm also going to put that over between medium and medium-high heat. And let that get going. And then the next step is we're going to put a little bit of our avocado oil. And I'll have to pick that up in a minute. Madison, leave it. Don't get her. Leave it. Good girl. Oh, Benny, just keep rolling. Okay, so I've washed up the lid to the avocado oil that had dropped on the floor. This is a home with home cooks. We make mistakes sometimes. Okay, so got the avocado oil in here, and I'm going to put a little bit of butter in with this too, because we're trying to create a rice texture with rice flavor. So about a half a tablespoon of butter is going to go in here. And the the avocado oil will help your butter not to burn and scorch, and it still leaves a really nice flavor. So we're going to let that get melted up in here, and then we'll add the cauliflower rice in just a minute. And now our gravy's starting to boil, so I'm going to turn the heat down just a little bit. And we're going to go back here and stir this down a little bit. Now sometimes this glucomannan, you got to really watch it for a minute because it will foam up. But that goes down as you stir. And so as you can see, I'm doing a dash, which is 1/8 of a teaspoon. And you just sort of want to sprinkle it over. You don't want to dump it all in one thing because it can clump on you. Because like I said, it's a derivative of the cognac root, which is gelatinous in nature. And you don't want to add any more than that to this because there's another product you can use called xanthan gum. And glucomannan is just like xanthan gum in the fact that if you put too much, you will have a slimy texture. And nobody wants slimy gravy. So you put a little bit and then you just have to be patient. And so you get it stirred up really good in there. And now that it's come down a little bit, I'm going to turn the heat back up just a little bit, just a little over medium, and we're going to let this bubble. And it's going to boil up, and I'm going to stir it down probably 3 or 4 times, and you can sort of see that it's starting to bubble up now again because I turned the heat up, and that's fine. That's what we want because we're trying to cook that glucomannan, and we want to get it all cooked up in there, and we want it to have a nice emulsion for the gravy without getting slimy. So we're going to stir. And just stir it up a little bit, and then we're going to leave it alone and let it bubble up again. And we'll have to do that 3, 4, 5, 6 times to get it to the place that we want it to be, but we will get there. So we're going to stir our spinach up a little bit here. And on the spinach, you're going for this nice bright green, and you want it obviously to be done all the way through and not have any frozen bits in it. But unless you just like your spinach like really, really cooked where it's almost an olive green, you're going for a really pretty bright green and having it done. And then once we get there, we'll put the farmer. Oh! Go, Guinea, don't do that. Well, that was embarrassing. So we're going to stir the gravy down again, and then we're getting ready to put the cauliflower rice in here. And you know, guys, if it boils over, don't freak out. You can use a bigger pan than I do. So let's see. We've got our butter and our oil going here, and I'm going to put about half of this in here for right now. Like I said, it keeps in the refrigerator for a long time, even after you rice it, especially if you get a nice fresh head of cauliflower, which I did. And so I like just plain salt and pepper in mine. If you want to add other things, garlic. You have to be careful with garlic though, because even garlic powder and onion powder are a little bit carby. So you've got to be careful with the amount of onion powder and garlic powder that you're using when you cook. And also just keep track of it. I mean, there's nothing wrong with using these seasonings at all. There's absolutely nothing wrong with you using them, but you just have to be aware when you're using them that you're counting your carbs and keeping everything really low. And you're going to have to decide where you want to set your carbs at, or your carb limit for the day. And also, see, we're boiling up here, so let me turn the heat down again. It's like doing a dance over here with the gravy, but it's so worth it in the end. So back to talking about carbs. When I first started eating low carb, I kept my carbs like 40 net carbs, 40 or below a day. And I lost 160 pounds doing that, but now I've cut them back to about 25 net carbs a day because I reached a plateau, and so I needed to bring them down a little bit further, and it's working, and I'm starting to lose again. But when you first start out, the main thing you're trying to do is get that glucose down, get your A1C back down into a normal range, and not try to make yourself crazy by only having, you know, like 20 carbs a day if you can't handle that. Some people go and they can do that right off the bat. I wasn't one of them. But you can definitely make great progress just cutting out the soda, the sugar, the pasta, any and all grains, and most fruit. And if you make those changes, you will see big changes in your glucose and your blood sugar. And then when you start eating basic meals like this, you're going to be amazed before you're halfway through what happens. Alright, so back to the cauliflower rice here. Like I said, I like my rice to have more of a rice consistency than the cauliflower rice. And so I cook it, but it's really al dente for me. And like I said, if you don't mind the mushier cauliflower, you can definitely buy it in the frozen food section and use that so you don't have to cut it up yourself. And I've done that, and I'll continue to do that for those times where I'm having a day where I just don't have time to get everything done. But for today, I wanted to show you exactly what you can accomplish doing this. So let's check on the spinach here. Alright, and it's getting nice and done. So I'm going to turn the heat down on the spinach. And this is what you're looking for, that nice bright green, that it's done all the way through. And unless you just really, really like your spinach really cooked, this is where you're going to stop. This farmer's cheese, you just put it in, and I'll show you guys the package of the farmer's cheese when I get through cooking, probably at the end of the video here, so you'll know what you're looking for if you've never had it before, because I had never even heard of it before I started eating low carb. And the thing I like about it is it adds a almost like feta cheese, which you can also have feta cheese on low carb. The feta cheese does have some carbs in it, and the farmer's cheese does not. And it's also really low calorie. I think it's like 35 calories per ounce. And oh, I forgot to tell you, I put an ounce and a half in here. But it's got like 35 calories per ounce and low to no carb. And it's really, really good. And so this is basically done now. So I'm just going to turn the heat down to keep it warm. Put the lid back on it. And then we're going to stir the cauliflower a little bit more, because we're almost done with the cauliflower as well. I'm going to check on our gravy here. And I'm going to show you a trick with the gravy that'll help you know when you're getting close to it being done. You want to take your spoon and put your spoon in the back of it, and you see how it's sticking to the spoon? Run your finger down it, and if it stays like that, then you're getting very close. You could actually use it at this point. I just like mine just a little bit thicker than this, but when you see this on your spoon, it has come together and emulsified, and it's fine to serve it like this. It's just a little thinner than what I like to have. So we're going to let this thicken up a little bit. We're going to turn the heat off of the cauliflower rice, leave it in the pan so it stays warm, and in a minute we'll be eating some good country food. Alright, so I think I'm going to let this boil up one more time and thicken up a little bit, and then we'll be serving. And while I'm waiting on that, I'm going to reach in here and get a plate. And you can absolutely put your meatballs on a tray and then just pour gravy over the meatballs to serve them. For me, it's just easier to put the cauliflower rice on the plate and the meatballs and the gravy on top of that. But if you want to serve these for a dinner party, which you absolutely could do, 99% of the food that we eat on low carb is food that other people eat every day. It's just we make it a little bit differently. So I have got tons of friends that are not low carb and are not diabetic who come over and eat often, and they love my cooking, which makes me happy. And I just make them things like this. And when they're here, we'll have fruit trays with like strawberries, blueberries, raspberries, because we can, as diabetics, we can have those in small portions. They also have sugar-free Rebel ice cream that diabetics can eat. And there's Lily's chocolate bars that diabetics can eat. So you have a lot of options, but you want to try to stay away from the treat stuff when you're first getting started, because right now we're trying to get those sugars down, get that glucose down, and get your pancreas some rest so it can handle more of those foods. But you'll get there. Just, you know, eat low carb and you will get there. So, alright, we're bubbling up again. I'm going to try to stir this up one more time. And you can continue cooking this until you get it as thick as you like. It will continue to thicken up. It also thickens up some when it cools. So if you wanted to, you know, put it in a gravy boat or just leave it in the pan, it'll do that in the pan too as it cools down. But this is a pretty good consistency for me. So first thing is the rice. We're going to plate this up here. And I will put a description in the description box. I will put the macros and the carbs and the calories and all that for this plate that I'm making. Because, you know, obviously I made extra. But I'll put all that information down in the description for you. And then, like I said, I'm having this whole portion of spinach because I love it. And it's delicious and it's good for me and it's still plenty low carb. I spilled some. That's alright. Y'all forgive me for spilling. Okay. Then we're going to, I do 3 to 4 meatballs. Today I'm going to do 3. Just because I'm not starving today. But I have eaten 4 in the past, and I'm sure I will again one day. But today we're going to do 3. Uh-oh, my meatball's falling apart. Again, this is a home kitchen. We have accidents sometimes. So Madison will be happy to have that in just a little while when it cools off. You have to wait till it cools off, baby girl. Yep, you gotta wait till it cools. And so, gravy thing. I don't know where my gravy thing is. This one will work. And you can have a good bit of this gravy with your food because it's low carb. And so you don't have to be like super sparing and stuff like you would if you were making a bad decision to have restaurant gravy or something. Everything off here. And I'm going to have this. Madison is waiting for her piece. All right, sweet girl, let mommy get this for you. There you go. Yummy meatballs. And get a glass. Okay, so we've talked about in previous videos sweetener monk fruit, and it's a one-on-one substitute for sugar, and I love monk fruit in my tea, which is what I'm having here. So I've made a plate of veggies, and I've got radishes, tomatoes, celery, red pepper, and some black olives, and yes, you can have all of that on a low-carb plan. And this is a new product that monk fruit, I like to use the monk fruit in the raw, and the big bag that's got the granulated monk fruit in the raw is just like this. It looks just like this, but the other day I went to the store to find Lakanto monk fruit packets, and they didn't have any, but they had this. So I'm super happy about that because I like to take these packets with me when I go out to restaurants and stuff and sweeten my tea or my coffee after dinner, because I don't like any of the Splenda or the Equal or any of that stuff. I just don't care for them. So the monk fruit I love, so it dissolves really easily and it's delicious. Was that a good meatball? I see, you would care for some more soon? Okay. So that's it, and this is delicious. The meatballs are tender. Mm-hmm. The rice and the gravy, really, really tasty. And the spinach with the farmer's cheese is amazing. If you've ever had spanakopita, it's very similar to that. It really is close to a spinach pie without all the bread and the dough and everything around it, but you still get the taste of the spinach. Really good. You guys, that's good. So, I hope you try this. Let me know how you like it. And this is a very good low-carb dinner full of goodness and comfort. So, you guys have a great day. I love you bunches, and see you soon. Okay guys, so this is the Friendship Farmer's Cheese. I was promising you I'd put a picture of the label on so you could find it. This brand has actually only got 35 calories and has 0 carbs. So it's a really good choice for adding cheese to a meal. And it does get melty and stringy and delicious like all of that stuff. So there you go.